The Visionaries is made possible in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, helping people help themselves, and by Nonprofit World, the National Nonprofit Leadership and Management Journal.
Let it be me. This is not a fighting song. Let it be me. Not a wrong for a wrong. Let it be me. If the world is light, shine my life like a light.
In our search for enlightenment, we sometimes think that the more candles we acquire, the more light there will be, forgetting that it is the spark of inspiration that brings the candle to life. In 1963, 300,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. to hear the now famous I Have a Dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King. This is the story of just one of those individuals for whom that speech was the spark that changed their lives. His name is Frank Carr, and he was a white businessman from a well-to-do Connecticut family. He left the march a changed man and founded Inroads in 1970.
We'd been traveling in a school bus for some 5 hours from New York City to Washington, D.C. Instead of taking the main entry into Washington, they put us through the inner city. And I still remember the older black women especially that were lining the streets and with their graying hair and the tears streaming down their face. We finally got to the Great Mall about 9 o'clock. It was one of those steamy summer days, and the speeches began, and the politicians and movie stars were speaking, and then around midday, a chunky black man came up there and began to speak in the cadence tones of a Southern Baptist preacher.
This nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
And he literally electrified an audience. I'm sure a lot of us went away from there deeply inspired, and I was one of them.
Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who fulfilled my need. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me.
Frank was a regional sales manager for Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston Publishers in Chicago. Attended the March on Washington, heard the I Have a Dream speech that Martin Luther King gave, and quit his job. And during the day, worked with people he knew from Princeton, which is where he went to school, on trying to make a difference. He wanted to make a difference for the young people coming out of the ghettos and barrios of Chicago. His wife died a few years ago, and Frank decided that he wanted to go into the ministry. So he went to Hales Corners, Wisconsin, to the seminary there, studied for 3 years, learned how to speak Spanish, which is a remarkable feat for a person who was in his 60s at the time. And now he's in Yuma, Arizona, as a priest there at a parish in that community.
My parents, my mother and father, Andre and Annie Dorsina, came from Haiti in the late 60s in quest for a better life here, and they've both been working 2 jobs, each of them full-time, for the past 25 years. And I think that's what has kept me focused, is the amount of work that my parents have been doing for the past 25 years, both of them working 2 jobs to put me through Boston College. During the spring of the 1993-94 academic year, I ran for president of the undergraduate government of Boston College. How you doing? Heard about the diverse meeting, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Got heated at times.
This guy is a native of Dorchester. I'm also from Dorchester. It's in the city of Boston. We both went to Boston College High School together. We're both here at BC, and he was a campaign manager for our campaign to get elected president.
Well, the campaign's theme was building bridges, which was kind of the theme of the subsequent administration, too, but basically it was trying to bring together segments of the campus that had never been brought together before.
And I think that's how it ties in with Inroads, is that with Inroads, you have an opportunity to see hundreds of young students of color, ages 18 through 22, Black, Latino students who have the highest ambitions. I mean, they want to be owners of buildings in Copley Square. They want to be CEOs of different companies, something that I didn't grow up seeing. I didn't grow up seeing these images. The images I saw was when I turned on Cops, you know, on TV, or America's Most Wanted, or Michael Jordan, or some entertainment, or some comedian cracking jokes. But you never saw people of color who have ambitions to succeed in the business world. So I think that's how Inroads ties in with what we're trying to do here on this campus, is saying that people need to cross the lines of communication.
We realized that youngsters from those communities, the black and brown and red communities, come from a different culture, and that they need an opportunity to learn how to, what I call, play the game, to learn how to handle themselves in a white middle-class culture at the college and on the job.
Well, I first heard of Inroads when I was a senior in high school, a couple of months before graduation, and this was the whole idea of getting involved in business was a little different for me. My parents grew up in the countryside in Cuba. They had about a third-grade education.
When God created us, he didn't, you know, he didn't sprinkle that talent just in the white community. He sprinkled it all over.